Hello everyone, and welcome to another UXW Bill product review video. As with some of the product review videos I've created in the past, this one is also a sponsored product review. As it happens, I was contacted recently by the Vantop Group and asked if I would be willing to produce a video review in exchange for receiving a free product. As I always do, if the product is interesting to me, I said yes, that I would, but any such review would be predicated on the notion that I be allowed to speak openly and honestly about my experiences with the product, whether good, bad, middling, indifferent, whatever they may be. Any such review would be created in a completely honest fashion. They went ahead and sent me a product. We'll take a look at what it is here in just a moment. But you're probably wondering why we're outside today. Well, as it happens, the Vantop Group also requested that I make the video outside for reasons unknown to me. So here we are at the farm today, and with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get things started. Here is the Snugmax Vickers 200 model portable power generator. Now, like many of these devices on the market today, this is actually more of a power bank than it is a generator, as the electrical energy it provides comes from a series of lithium-ion cells located inside the device. Likewise, as the model number implies, this is intended to operate a nominal 200 watt or thereabout load when it comes to attached devices. So let's go ahead and pop it out of the box, take a look at it, but before we do that, I'll go ahead and hit some of the highlights on the packaging here. I will say that the presentation is quite nice. This packaging appears to be of very high quality, if you're of a mind to care about such things. Here on the side panel, it gives some specifications about the Vickers 200 model. It tells us that it has a lithium-ion battery, a capacity of 222 watt-hours at 3.7 volts or 60,000 milliamp hours. I have done the math to check those figures, and they do appear to be realistic. A charging time of between 7 and 8 hours is reported. The charging voltage ranges from 13 to 24 volts at a nominal 2.4 amps worth of current. The power supply is world compatible, operating anywhere from 100 to 240 volts AC, and there are several different types of power outputs offered on this device. There are 3 USB outputs, 1 USB Type-C output, a 12-volt DC output, and an AC output that is provided by a built-in inverter, and that's where most of the 200-watt figure that they quote is actually given. All of those functions can actually operate at once. So if you want to charge USB devices, have a 12-volt DC load attached, and be operating a built-in inverter, you can do that. They quote an operation temperature of between -10 to 40 degrees Celsius, and then there are some icons down here that tell you you can charge it with a solar panel, a car charger, or an AC adapter, which for some reason has a USB symbol printed on it. On the other side of the box, they tell us what you get: the portable power generator itself, a car charger, a 12-volt DC cigarette lighter adapter that allows you to attach any load to this generator that happens to attach with a cigarette lighter style connector. You also get a 15-volt 2.4 amp AC adapter, an accessory bag, and a user's manual. There are some cautions printed here. And then, of course, there's really not much to show on the back of the box other than a nice picture of what looks like some people hiking alongside the lake. I don't know if any of them thought to bring a power bank with them, but if you're looking for a quick review on this product, with my experiences so far, I would say it is a pretty good, solid product and certainly worthy of your attention if you happen to be in the market for such a device. So let's go ahead and open it up here, for those of you that are interested in an unboxing. Again, the presentation is quite nice. Here's the product itself, securely encased in some foam blocks and also wrapped in a kind of plastic sleeve. I'll go ahead and take that off, and then we'll just slide this out of the packaging so you can get a look at the actual product itself. There is a little cardboard box containing the accessories, and there's also the user's manual. These two items are the paperwork that comes with the product. We begin with a small card that starts out by saying, if you're happy with your product, they would encourage you to tell your friends and family about it, or share your experience by writing a review on the Amazon.com website. By the way, if you happen to see this video on Amazon.com, please know that it was not put there inappropriately or stolen from me. I granted permission to the Vantop Group to upload the video to Amazon if they found it worthy. Now, although I don't think it will be the case, if you should be unhappy with your product, they give you information to contact their product support team, help you out. The second piece of documentation that you get is this user's manual. Someone put a lot of thought into this, and it's nicely done, but I have to stop short of telling you that it's well put together because, unfortunately, something happened to my particular example of it. I'll go ahead and show you right now. We open up the book here. Starts out looking perfectly fine. There's the brand name right there on the front, but as soon as we flip it open, once we get past the important safety information, I want you to look carefully at this because something definitely went wrong during the assembly process here. Part of the manual has actually been put together upside down and backwards. I don't think this is terribly likely to happen. If you should decide to buy this product, you'll probably get a manual that's perfectly good. And I'm sure that if you registered a concern with the nice folks at the Vantop Group, that they would either send you an electronic copy or provide you with a corrected version of the manual in some form or another. It's still perfectly readable, and I would recommend having a read through it just so you know everything that this product happens to be capable of. But that's the manual. Not a whole lot to it, but definitely an interesting experience nevertheless. And then here is the little accessory packet that you get. This contains the previously mentioned AC adapter, car charging adapter, and also the adapter that lets you use devices designed to operate from a cigarette lighter power point. You have to be careful when you say that term cigarette lighter around the younger set, because for the past 20-odd years that's been an endangered species in an automobile. They're just called power points now. But there's the AC adapter. Seems to be perfectly well made. It's worked well for me so far. I don't anticipate having any problems with it. And it seems to be well made enough that it is reasonably shielded and does not cause excessive amounts of trouble with reception on a nearby AM radio if you happen to desire doing that. This, of course, is the small adapter that's intended for use with devices that operate from a cigarette lighter or power point, whichever you would prefer to call it. And then here's the car charger. I was a little bit surprised to see that they did not include any kind of USB cables to help you get started. I guess they figure maybe you have enough that you'll already use the one that comes with your cell phone or whatever kind of device you want to power. But given that a lot of these devices actually do come with a basic selection of USB cables in the box, I was a little bit surprised that they didn't include any of them with this particular set. And now let's take a closer look at some of the features offered by this power generator. We won't get into the details during this portion of the review. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights as well as a few of the more notable things that I've observed in tinkering around with it over the past couple of days. I've charged it up, I've run it down, I've operated various loads from it, and anything that sticks out as particularly interesting I'll share with you right now. First things first, there's a status display right on the front of the generator. This is a multicolor backlit liquid crystal display. If you can see it at all here with the sunlight beating down on it today, I'll go ahead and turn it on by pressing the button that also supplies power to two of the USB ports on the front. If you can see it at all, to the left there is a battery status indication. To the right there's a runtime estimate in hours. What you can't see right now, because there doesn't happen to be a load attached to it, is the real-time watt meter. And this is definitely an interesting implementation. They really thought about this when they put it together, because it just doesn't give you a wattage figure for one attached load. It actually considers everything that the power bank is operating, and it continues to function while you're charging it. So somebody definitely did a nice job implementing that particular feature. There are also indicators for the loads that you are powering at any given time, be they USB, USB Type-C, the DC output, the AC inverter, And although I cannot see into the display window and determine if there are any unused characters in there, I can tell you that there is an overload indication that happens to show up if you accidentally short or overload one of the device's outputs. The power controls are a little bit confusing. To utilize the USB ports, the conventional USB ports on the unit, as well as the power inverter, you have to start by turning them on. In the case of the USB ports, you just press the button on the lower left that I just demonstrated to turn the display on. That's all there is to it. If you want to turn the inverter on, you actually press the button to the right and you wait for the indication to appear in the display. There is a bit of a delay built into turning the unit on and off. Presumably that was put there so that it won't be accidentally triggered if it's bouncing around in a backpack or some other piece of camping equipment that you're carrying along with you. However, other power outputs turn on automatically, such as the USB Type-C output. That one is not affected by the front panel controls. You simply plug in a USB-C device and it powers up right away, and it also turns on the other USB ports for you. Now, the two USB ports on the left are supposedly connected together electrically, and they're rated for a maximum of 3.1 amps worth of electrical current shared across both of them. I found that they have no problem meeting that claimed current delivery specification. In fact, I was able to get nearly 4 amps out of both of them before the overload protection intervened and shut the thing down. The USB Type-C port actually has power detection capability. It communicates with the device you've attached to determine what sort of voltage it's expecting, and it programs itself accordingly over a wide range of voltage possibilities up to a total of 20 volts DC. Below the USB Type-C port on the right-hand side of the power generator is what looks like another USB port, except it's blue. This one actually has Qualcomm Quick Charge capability, which offers an output of up to 9 volts DC. Again, that's negotiated in some way with the attached device. I have not been able to test that functionality because I do not own anything that utilizes the Qualcomm Quick Charge technology. However, as previously mentioned, the USB ports of a more conventional type and the third USB port in its conventional mode of operation at 5 volts are all capable of very high current delivery. I don't think you will find that there is anything this power generator cannot charge when it's attached via USB. The two DC outputs in the middle both provide a total of 12 volts. I don't know if they're connected together internally or not. They give a maximum and perhaps relatively plausible current output figure of up to 10 amps. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable with that kind of electrical power traveling over a little barrel connector like that. I have not put that to a test because I don't have anything really conveniently available with which to test it. If we go ahead and turn the generator on its side, you'll see the two AC outlets here. Unlike other products in this particular category, these are actually the United States, Canada, and also seen a few other places in the world type of electrical outlet. Presumably, if they market an international version of this, the outlet changes accordingly. I really like seeing this over the more frequently offered universal style of electrical output socket that is seen on a lot of these power banks. I feel that this grips the plug better, and I really don't see this as being a limitation, because if you need some kind of a plug adapter to make a device work that won't plug in directly, they're cheaply and readily available. Output here is programmed at 120 volts. You cannot change it, unless of course there's something inside that would let you adjust it. I have not looked at that yet. Down below that, there is the connection for charging. You can charge this up to 3 ways. You can charge it in your car with a solar panel or using the included AC adapter. There are other ways that you could charge it as well. Any sort of suitable DC input would work, from 13 to 24 volts DC, maybe even a little bit beyond that, but you probably don't want to push it too far. You can also attach a solar panel to this if you would like to do so, as supposedly there is a maximum power point tracking style solar charge controller contained within this generator. Here on the back we have an LED light panel. This puts out a surprisingly even and steady light. I'll go ahead and turn it on for you right now, but I want to caution anyone in the viewing audience who suffers from any kind of a photosensitive condition or isn't sure if they might be afflicted by such a condition. You may want to skip ahead to the next 20 seconds or so in the video in case something like this might bother you, as this light offers not only a steady illumination mode, but also 2 different flashing patterns. Again, assuming you can actually see it with the sun beating down on it, and we'll test it in a little more appropriate of a situation later in the review. I'll go ahead and turn it on. It does look like it might be somewhat visible, but there it is, steadily lit. And the next mode of operation is a random fast flashing mode. I suspect that this is intended to disorient a potential attacker or someone who might be bothering you, be it a person, an animal, whatever it might be. And then rounding that out, although I am not 100% sure on this, I believe that right now it is signaling an SOS. I'm not sure how effective this would be in attracting attention if you happen to need help, but it also costs essentially nothing to include. There's also a specifications label down at the bottom that gives you information about the input and output capabilities of the power generator. Unlike some power generators that I have seen in the past, the fan in this model appears to be quite well implemented. It doesn't short cycle frequently, and it doesn't change in speed at annoying intervals. It does have a high and low operating speed, but once it's switched into either one of those speeds, it tends to stay there. Likewise, it may also turn off at times, but there is a sufficient amount of hysteresis in the fan control that it's not going to be constantly cycling and upsetting your ability to sleep. It's my understanding a lot of people use these little generators with things like CPAP machines, so it's important that it not make a lot of disruptive noise while you're trying to sleep. That said, the fan is not exactly quiet, but I certainly did not find it annoying when it was in operation. We have come to the point in this video review where I'm ready to talk with you in further detail about the aspect of this power generator that I happen to find the most interesting. Specifically, that is the built-in AC inverter. If you happen to be shopping around for these and you take some time to look at the technical specifications, you'll probably have noticed the same thing that I did. All of these products on the market that I have seen so far make the claim that their AC inverters have a true sine wave output characteristic. I reviewed a product previously in this same category that made such a claim, and unfortunately it fell short of the mark. It had the more traditional modified sine wave output characteristic with regard to its inverter's output. Now, many devices will never care, but some certainly do. Induction motors tend to be noisier, some devices tend to be less efficient, and there are even some devices that can burn up or have other adverse reactions. It's here and in several other places that the folks who designed this Snugmax power generator really did a good job. First and foremost, they are telling the truth about the inverter's output characteristic. It really does have a true sine wave output, which you'll see for yourself here in just a moment. They also seem to have done their homework in several other important areas. The surge capacity of this otherwise minimalistically rated inverter, after all it only has a 200 watt output rating, is quite good. I have yet to find something other than a gross overload with something that should never have been plugged into it that will actually trip it into an overload condition and cause it to stop supplying power. It handles minor overloads very, very well, and other devices that are running from the inverter, being as you get 2 AC outlets, they don't seem to notice much, if any, disturbance to speak of. Again, I'll demonstrate that. Also, when you start the inverter for the first time, as I'm going to here shortly, it starts softly. Now, this is only applicable when you first turn the inverter on. If it's already running and you plug something into it, whatever that is will start up instantly, which is good because some devices may not take well to an attempt to soft start them. Small refrigeration compressors, certain types of induction motors, switch mode power supplies, those things may shut down unexpectedly if they see the voltage ramping up, or they may behave in other undesirable and unpredictable ways. I've gone ahead and hooked up a 100 watt light bulb in the lamp just behind the stump that you can see there, and now I'll turn the inverter on. In order to do this, you have to begin by turning on power to the USB ports, which takes a moment. When you go to turn the inverter on, it takes a while longer before your input is recognized. But watch the lamp and you'll see it comes up to full intensity gradually rather than starting suddenly. I'll give you a closer look at the scope meter in a moment so you can actually see it happen on the waveform display. But just to prove that what I said to you about devices starting instantaneously when plugged into an already running inverter in the Snugmax power generator, we'll go ahead and unplug the lamp right now. And then plug it right back in again. You can see that it starts up instantly. Now let's take a closer look at the scope meter's display. Here's our scope meter sitting completely idle at the moment. I'll go ahead and start the inverter and you can watch as the waveform ramps up to its normal amplitude and voltage level. Starts up nice and smoothly. Here's a look at how the inverter reacts if I plug the lamp into it while it's already running. First I'll unplug it. As you can see, there really aren't any overshoots to speak of. And then I'll go ahead and plug it back in. And again, it seems to handle that very, very well. Of course, almost any old inverter can run a perfectly resistive load like the incandescent light bulb I'm using right now without any trouble at all. It's when we turn to inductive loads that things get a little more interesting. For this test, I've brought out one of my nice, high-quality, old-fashioned box fans. We'll go ahead and plug that into the inverter right now. We'll unplug the lamp and get the cord for the fan, bring it around here, and plug it in. You can tell right away that the inverter has to have a very high quality output characteristic because the induction motor within that box fan is running very smoothly, quietly, and at the correct speed. Here again is a look at the inverter's output waveform while it's completely idle. I have actually reduced the time base reading on the scope so that it shows us the waveform in a little bit more detail so that we can see what happens when I plug the fan in. If there's any substantial change to its characteristic or any suggestion that it might be struggling in its efforts to power this load. Make sure that the fan blades have stopped turning, which they have, and then we'll go ahead and plug it in. And now the fan is running, no obvious problems, no unusual noises. Seems to be giving a very good account of itself. Let's go ahead and try one more test. The fan pulls about 86 watts when it's running on the high speed, which it is right now. And over here I have this table lamp that has a 100-watt bulb in it. We won't get quite to the rating of the power generator itself, but we will get close enough to see how well it handles a sudden demand for its services. I'll also go ahead and plug the fan in with the lamp running so you can see if there's any change in the behavior of the lamp. And yes, in case you happen to be wondering, I am very definitely getting to the point where a video light could come in quite handy. Our lamp is running right now. Let's go ahead and plug in the fan. The lamp dimmed just slightly to my perception. I don't know that you'll actually see it in what the camcorder picked up. It's time to go ahead and close up this product review, which I'll do by saying that if you happen to be in the market for one of these power bank generator style devices, that this Snugmax Vickers Model 200 should certainly be on your short list of potential candidates. I've been using it over the past several weeks, carefully evaluating its feature set. I'm very impressed by the capabilities that it has to offer. The USB ports can supply enough current to charge anything that you could ever hope to throw at them. The inverter's true sine wave output characteristic is a very nice touch. The USB Type-C output is capable of powering a wide variety of devices. I've tried a couple of Chromebooks and laptops with it. They both did exactly what they were supposed to do with no problems whatsoever. There's really only one minor nit, and it's here that the manufacturer and I disagree as to whether or not this constitutes any kind of a limitation. It has to do with charging this from your car. If you do that extensively, instead of using the provided AC power adapter to recharge the built-in batteries, you'll notice that charging takes place more slowly than it would when you're doing so from household power. But that's really the only thing that I have noticed. I certainly hope that this review has been interesting, worthwhile, and informative, and as always, I welcome your constructive commentary. There's also a link to purchase this item from Amazon.com down in the video description, so please do take a look at that. And until next time, this has been another UXW Bill product review.